I'm 75 years old, and I'm tired of pretending I'm just fine. The truth is, I spent my best years chasing approval, and I don't know exactly when I stopped living for myself and started living for reactions. I'm not saying this for sympathy. I'm saying it because at this age you start hearing a clock you can't turn off, even when the room is quiet. Most mornings I wake before the sun is fully up. Not because I'm productive, because sleep doesn't hold me the way it used to. I sit on the edge of the bed, feet on the cold floor, and I listen to the house settle. A pipe knocks, the refrigerator clicks. Outside, a bird starts up like it has somewhere to be. My wife is gone. That changes the air in a home, even years later. There's nobody asking if I want tea. Nobody rolling their eyes at the news. Nobody was breathing on the other side of the room. The quiet isn't peaceful. It's just empty space with my name on it. I make coffee and drink it slowly, even though it's not good coffee. I stand by the window and look at the street. People go to work. Kids get dropped off. A delivery truck stops, then moves on. The world doesn't pause to notice an old man staring. And here's what I've been thinking, over and over. If nobody's watching me anymore, who am I? Because for most of my life, I acted like someone was always grading me. I didn't call it that. I called it being responsible, being respectable, being a good man. But what I was really doing was chasing approval, like it was safe. Like if enough people liked me, nothing bad could touch me. I learned that early. My father wasn't cruel in the loud way. He didn't shout much. He didn't make scenes. But he had this look, a look that could shrink you down without a word. If you disappointed him, you felt it in your bones. My mother tried. She really did. But she was worn out. She had her own worries. So I became the child who made things easier, the kid who didn't ask for much, the one who tried to be impressive so nobody would sigh at me. Teachers liked me. Neighbors told my mother, "He's such a good boy." Relatives patted my head at holidays and said I'd go far. And I felt something warm in my chest when they said it. I didn't know it was a trap. I thought that warm feeling was love. By the time I was in my 20s, I had a system. I knew how to behave. I knew how to speak. I knew how to look like someone with a future. I got a job that sounded good when you said it out loud. I wore clean shirts, kept my hair neat, and learned to shake hands firmly. I listened more than I spoke, not because I was wise, but because I was afraid of saying the wrong thing. I met my wife when I was young. She had this steady way of being in the world. Not loud, not attention-seeking, just a present. When she laughed, it reached her eyes. When she was upset, she said it plainly. She didn't express her feelings. I loved her for that, and I also depended on it more than I admitted. When we married, I wanted her parents to approve. I wanted my parents to approve. I wanted to be seen as the kind of man who did right by his family. So I started building a life that looked correct from the outside. We bought a house we could barely afford because it felt like proof. Proof that I was moving up. Proof that I wasn't failing. I took overtime because my boss noticed who stayed late. I said yes to extra projects, yes to committees, yes to any chance to be called reliable. People said, "We can always count on you." And I ate those words like they were food. I remember coming home at night and feeling proud of being exhausted, like the tiredness itself meant I mattered. My wife would have dinner ready, nothing fancy, just real food, plates warm, children loud in the background. We had 2 kids, a daughter first, then a son. I remember holding them and feeling fear, not just love. Fear that I wouldn't be enough, that I'd mess it up, that people would see through me. So I doubled down on what I knew. I worked harder. I tried to be the man nobody could criticize. The thing about approval is it doesn't stay. It leaks out of you. One compliment fades. One promotion becomes normal. Then you need another sign you're doing okay. I was always trying to stay ahead of judgment. I was always preparing an answer for a question nobody had asked. And while I was doing that, I was missing things. Not always the big things. Sometimes it was smaller. My daughter showed me a drawing and I said nice without looking properly. My son brought me something he built, and I nodded while thinking about an email I had to send. My wife tells me about her day, and I half listened, waiting for my turn to talk about mine. I went to some games, some school events. I don't want to rewrite history like I was never there. But being there isn't the same as being available. I was often present like a piece of furniture. In the room, not in the moment. I remember one evening at the kitchen table, mail spread out, bills, flyers, all of it. My daughter, maybe 13, started talking about a friend who'd been cruel to her. Not a big dramatic crisis, just the kind of hurt that sits in a kid's throat. She talked while I opened envelopes. I nodded. I made the right sounds. Then I offered advice too fast, something practical, something neat and tidy. She stopped mid-sentence. Her face changed in a way I didn't understand at the time. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just got quiet and went back to her room. And I felt relieved. Relieved that the uncomfortable feeling in the room had passed. That relief is what I'm ashamed of now. Because it meant I wanted the appearance of being a good father more than the work of being one. My son was different. He didn't come with feelings in his hands. He came with projects, a model airplane, a birdhouse, a school science display with glue everywhere. He'd stand there, waiting, not begging, just waiting. And I'd say, "That's great." And then I'd drift off into my own head. Those moments didn't feel like turning points. They felt ordinary. That's how damage happens. Ordinary. My wife tried to reach me, not with speeches, not with threats, with small sentences said at the sink, or in the hallway, or in bed with the light off. You don't have to say yes to everything. You seem far away. They miss you. And I would get irritated. Not because she was wrong, but because she was touching the place I kept hidden. I'd say, "I'm tired," like tiredness excused everything. The truth is, I didn't know how to be real without risking disapproval. If I had an opinion, I softened it. If I was hurt, I swallowed it. If I needed something, I acted like I didn't. I thought I was being mature. I thought I was keeping peace. But really, I was disappearing in small ways every year. Time moved. The kids grew. They left home. They built their own lives. I kept working, kept chasing the next nod, the next compliment, the next sign I was safe. Then I retired. There was a cake at work, speeches, handshakes. People said nice things. I smiled and thanked them, and I felt proud. And then I went home and sat in my living room and felt empty. No schedule, no performance. No one needs me. That's when it hit me. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know how to spend a day without trying to earn it. My wife adjusted better than I did. She had friends, routines, a way of making meaning out of small days. She gardened, she baked. She called the kids just to hear their voices. I stayed busy in useless ways, fixing things that weren't broken. organizing papers, running errands nobody asked for, still trying to be good at something. Then she got sick. It started small, like these things do: a cough, fatigue, doctor visits that multiplied, waiting rooms that smelled like disinfectant and old fear. When the doctor finally said what it was, my wife squeezed my hand. We went home and made dinner like normal people, because normal is what you cling to when you're scared. The kids came around more after that. They called her, they visited, they sat with her and talked, and I watched it, grateful and wounded at the same time, because I could see how close they were with her, not forced, not polite, real. One evening after they left, we sat in the dim light of the living room. The TV was off, the house was quiet. My wife looked smaller, thinner, but still herself. She said, "They love you." I nodded because I believed that. Then she said, "But you've spent your whole life trying to be liked. You forgot to be known." That sentence landed like a weight. Not dramatic, just heavy. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to say I did it for the family, for stability, for the future. And I had partly, but I also did it because I was scared. Scared of being judged, scared of being ordinary, scared of being wrong. My wife died the next year, quietly, awfully. After the funeral, people went back to their lives. The world kept moving. The kids checked on me. They were kind. But without their mother as the center, I felt the distance more clearly. Calls became shorter. Visits became scheduled. I became something they managed, not someone they leaned on. And then one Sunday afternoon, my daughter came over to help me sort my wife's things. A box of old letters and photos sat on the table between us. She picked up a picture of herself as a little girl, missing teeth, hair messy, smiling like nothing could touch her. She stared at it for a long time. I said, "You were a happy kid." I meant it. I wanted it to be true. She didn't look up. She said, "I was happy with Mom." No cruelty in her voice, just honesty. I felt my throat tighten. I said, "I thought I was doing the right thing." She nodded slowly. Then she said, "You were always worried about what people thought." Finally, she looked at me, and there it was on her face. Not anger, not hate, a tired sadness, the kind you wear when you've already accepted someone. She said, "It was like you were never really here," and I didn't have an answer that wasn't an excuse. So I sat there, an old man at his own table, realizing you can't go back and show up later. That's what can't be fixed. Not the career, not the money, the lost years of being real with the people who mattered. If you're listening and you see yourself in any of this, I'm not here to tell you what to do. Life is complicated. People have responsibilities, I know that. I'm only telling you what I learned too late. Approval doesn't fill you up. It keeps you hungry. And while you're hungry for it, you can miss your own life. I used to think respect was the same as love. It isn't. I used to think avoiding conflict meant keeping peace. Sometimes it just meant nobody knew me. Now at 75, my days are smaller. Pills in the morning, groceries, a walk if the weather allows, a quiet house in the evening. Sometimes I catch myself still performing, still trying to sound like the good man version of me. And then I stop, because that version cost me something I can't buy back. If this means something to you and you're willing, you can leave a thought behind. Not to comfort me, just so this doesn't feel like it disappeared into silence. I don't have a big ending. I'm 75. I don't get a do-over. All I have is this late honesty. I chased approval like it was safe, and I lost myself so slowly I didn't notice until nobody was watching anymore.